Welcome to Businessline's Marketing Hangout with Shiv and Chithra podcast, where they chat about changing consumer trends and marketing strategies to cope with those. Hello, listeners. I'm your host, Chithra Narayanan, editorial consultant with the Businessline. With me on the Marketing Hangout as my valued co-host is Shivakumar, former PepsiCo India and Nokia India chief. Shiv always has the most unusual, out-of-the-box perspectives and amazing observations from the field. In fact, it's many of these observations that form the starting point of a discussion in marketing circles. For instance, he posted recently that he noticed a lot of bookshops are closing down. And yet, when we talk to publishers, it appears that book sales are actually going up. So in this episode, we look at the books industry, what's driving sales, and how publishers can get more people to read. Joining us to give the expert view is Gaurav Shrinagesh, CEO India, SEA and MENA of Penguin Random House, the publisher with the biggest market share and largest number of imprints. Welcome to the show, Shiv and Gaurav.
Thank you.
Lovely to be on the show again.
Yeah, Shiv, congrats also on your book, The CEO Mindset, which is already a bestseller.
Thank you.
Okay, so let me dive in with the first question to you, Gaurav. The popular myth is that nobody is reading these days, that attention spans are getting shorter. In fact, we in the newspaper industry also struggle with this. Yet we hear that book sales are actually increasing. So what's happening? Are the young reading? Who's buying? Is it ebooks that are contributing to the surge, or is it physical books? Gaurav, tell us what's happening.
Sure, Chitra. Thank you. Thank you for that. And Shiv, lovely to see you again. So India is, if you look at India historically, we unfortunately have never had a reading culture ingrained in us. What we did a study with McKinsey a few months back just to understand where the readership lies. And looking at the TAM, we found that about 8% or about 30 million readers are what we believe exist in India. Now, 30 million in and by itself is not a small number. It's a fairly large readership base we could address. What we've seen in our business, particularly post-COVID, is that there has been a steady growth upward on volume and value of our book sales, which bodes very well. And interestingly enough, it's the next generation of readers, which is the younger children who are picking up a lot of books pertaining to early learning and education. So that is, that bodes very well. Nonfiction is a great category for adults. That shows continuous growth. For example, as you've just mentioned, Shiv's book, The CEO Mindset, even pre-launch, due to pre-orders and his efforts actually to market the book, have already made this a bestseller. And a bestseller in India could be anywhere from 7,000 to 10,000 copies, in the first run. Fiction is always, a difficult one because while, of course, fiction tells stories, the challenge with fiction we have is that it competes with the OTT and the platforms. So that's always been a difficult one. But that said, when fiction does kick up, it really hits the ball out of the park. So we, in closing, we at Penguin Random House feel that India is a great market. We've been here for about 37, 38 years. We are here for the long term. And we were actually very confident that readership will grow from 7, 8% to about 12, 15% over the years to come.
So, Gaurav, we're also seeing some aggressive and innovative activity from publishers, like we've seen some publishers tying up with hotels and curating book events. And then, of course, the events like the Jaipur Lit Fest, and now you have every city has a Lit Fest. Have these fueled interest, or was it the pandemic actually? What are the factors?
Well, the pandemic was actually a very difficult year, I think, for the industry because we had a lot of shutdowns of retail. So the pandemic, ironically, in India didn't actually fuel growth, while internationally we had our best year ever. Now, of course, that said, I think any activity relating to book reading is always a good thing. We've seen a lot of festivals mushroom up in India over the last years. And this is a great platform for readers to engage with authors and authors to engage with readers, and that too face to face. Other events per se, always a little more difficult to get, scale out of, because generally speaking, you'll have about 30, 40 folk coming in for events. So while that's a great platform for smaller engagement, to scale that to, large size always becomes more difficult. But again, all of that said, it comes down to the book. It starts with the book and it finishes with the book. And the book and the author are absolutely critical in building up readership and interest, in the content that we put out there. I think us as Penguin Random House, we see ourselves as service providers to the authors, to the customers, to the readers. And our job is primarily to ensure that we can get out the best book that's presented to us for publishing. And of course, we use the various channels available to us, be it digital, be it publicity. Influencers are really interesting as well because they obviously have substantial reach. So I think all of that combined makes for a very interesting pot for book reading.
Shiv, so we've seen some brilliant and innovative marketing of books of late, especially using social media rather cleverly. Your own book, The CEO Mindset, has already sold out even before the official launch. What did you do differently, and how can authors and publishers strive to make every book a bestseller?
Now, I always say, Chithra, that everyone wants to be a leader, but nobody wants to be a follower. And I would use the same maxim in the publishing industry. Everybody wants to be an author, nobody wants to be a reader. Just because somebody's got 300 likes on a post, they think they have the power to tell a story. Okay. Our challenge is to tell compelling stories or compelling concepts so that more people take to reading. I think that's our biggest challenge as an industry. Okay. And now, in terms of your specific question, in terms of what should an author do? I believe, first of all, you should be clear as an author, why are you writing what you're writing? Okay, quite often authors get carried away by their ideas and their thoughts, and they think there's a big market for it. Quite often there's no market for it. I remember before I started publishing with Penguin, my first thoughts were, should I write about emerging market? Should I write about how multinationals work, etc.? Trust me, if I'd written about that, 5 copies would have sold. Okay, so I think, why does an author start off on this journey? Much like, why does a movie maker make a movie? There are 1,100 movies or more made in India. There are 5,000 books or 10,000 books or more being, printed in India today, first time. If there is no clarity on what you want to communicate, is there a compelling story, then it's just not worth it to be an author. So I believe it starts with the author having clarity with his editor on why and what is he writing about.
Shiv, you had made a post on LinkedIn that bookstores are shutting down, that you had been observing that. Yet book sales are going up. So what are the factors for stores closing? Are online sales the reason?
Yeah, so the first reason why bookstores are closing is that the revenue per book for the equivalent to the rent which they pay is very, very low. Books are by definition in the price band between 200 to 450. So every store in an airport or anywhere else makes a lot more money selling chocolates, selling electronics, selling soft toys, where their value per square foot is much higher than books. So that's the reason why they're closing down everywhere.
And on online sales?
Online sales go up and down in my book, depending on the book and the title, etc. People are reading much more digitally. Okay, like almost all news is digital, etc. I think language publications are getting better. Okay, so there are many, many more authors than bookstores in India today. There are only 2,500 bookstores, but I think the number of active authors must be at least 25 to 30,000.
Okay, this question is to both of you. We've seen recently that movie rights of a lot of books are being picked up. In fact, now there are agents, especially who kind of hunt around for books that can be made into movies. And interestingly, after the movie comes out, the book gets a second life. So when new authors write, should they write with a kind of movie script in mind?
Should I take that to begin with, Shiv?
Yeah.
Yes, Gaurav, you should take that. Boss.
So, from a pure play business perspective, and Shiv actually articulated this very well. So Shiv is on our board, and he's given us extreme insights in terms of how we can actually look at the book business, right? I think an author writing for screenplay is very different for an author writing for readers. And that's my personal opinion. Not all books will lend itself to screenplay, of course. A lot of the fictionalized books will, some of the non-fictionalized books will. Um, the conversion of book to film, I don't have the exact percentage, but it's not very, very high. So we do have instances where producers pick up or production houses pick up books, but for many years they don't see the light of day. Now that's different from an opportunity perspective. Is there an opportunity for more books to convert? I think there definitely is, because here you've got in many instances stories that can be adapted for screenplays. So opportunity, yes. Current conversions very high, probably not. Do authors, and again, I think Shiv would be more apt to talk about this than I, but do I think authors should just write with screenplay in mind? No, I think the reader should come first. And to Shiv's point, the author must know who they're writing for and why they're writing what they're writing.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say yes, there is an opportunity in two genres. Definitely not in the genre that I write, business, no chance. Okay. But two genres I would think might have this overlap in the Venn diagram. One is fiction movies, fiction books turning into fiction movies. There are lots of them out there. And the second one is actually children's books. I think both these lend themselves to a huge amount of, let's say, cinema, especially children's books, because now we have dedicated TV channels also. So I think the medium is fragmenting well enough for us to look at something like this, specialist stuff. Okay. Otherwise, business books I find unlikely. Though if it's a racy story like the Carlos Ghosn story, okay, so then it's made into a movie, etc. But otherwise, unlikely that business books will become, movies.
Okay, one question on monetization in this industry. I mean, I hear that just 3,000 or 5,000 copies is considered a bestseller, which sounds quite we are a country of such a huge country, and if just 5,000 books is a bestseller, where is actually the monetization? Are like movies is one part of it. What are the other avenues through which a book can be monetized?
I don't think 5,000 is the right number. I thought it was 10,000, but Gaurav would possibly give you the correct number. Gaurav, what's your sense?
No, absolutely right, Shiv. A bestseller is, we consider 10,000 copies.
Yeah, that's
for
what I
it
thought.
to hit the mark for us. Different publishers might have different approaches for marketing reasons. The average number of copies sold, you're absolutely right. If you do the maths, would be about 4,000 copies. And that is also because what happens is, if you look at the bell curve, a large chunk of books sell about three to 5,000 copies. There's only a small percentage that sell greater than 15, 20,000 copies. But again, the business is such, and the music industry follows this principle. The film industry follows the principle as well. It's the small number of bestsellers that ultimately finance and enable publishers to make investments back into the book business, because I don't think there is a predictive model yet that can, tell us which book is going to really hit the ball out of the park.
Shiv, your take on this?
My take, Chithra, is that, look, I think we might be singling out books because we have India's #1 publisher on the show with us. But the same question applies, Chithra, to all magazines, to all newspapers. The whole publishing industry is in decline for many years now, not just yesterday and today. And price competition is intense there. So I think overall, I would say, the ability to read long format is a challenge from a consumer point of view.
Okay. So, final question, Gaurav. Like when you sign up, since you said that you bank on a few bestsellers to, kind of subsidize the whole the other books that are going on. So, how do you identify these? Is it a gamble, or do you look for people who are already influencers, who are celebrities, who will probably have a huge following and whose following will anyway buy it? How does it work?
So three categories, right? There's children's, there's fiction, non-fiction. Non-fiction has a range of subjects. What we first look for is subject matter experts. People like Shiv who've led at large scale, who've managed thousands of employees, who have the experience to write a book like The CEO Mindset. Because he himself has developed leadership habits, right? So subject matter experts for us is absolutely critical. Now, of course, the flavor of the day at present is influencers, and we also partake in that area. On the fiction side, it comes down to the story, and that's where the editor really, their personal choices come in. If they resonate with the story, a story touches them, they bring it to the table, we discuss it, and we acquire it. Children's, again, there's different segments. There's the early learning segment, which is 0 to about 5. And that's primarily trying to put out content there where we believe in a creative way kids will be interested in learning. And then as you grow up that age category, middle grade is a lot of it is around fiction because, kids are already doing a lot of work on the education side. And our view is that, when they get out of school, they want to read interesting stories. So yeah, subject matter experts, people who have creative ideas, to Shiv's point, authors who believe in the stories that they've written. There's a whole range of parameters we look at. And in terms of estimating the sales, we do rely on previous sales of books in the same genre to see how they've done. And that's primarily our approach.
Okay, so it's not really, there is a bit of data to the gamble. Shiv, your final
what I would
thought.
say, I would say, Chithra, when I think about it, and I'm glad we had Gaurav on the show, is I believe there's a lot of commodity material out there. For example, take textbooks. Textbooks is a very big business. There's one of the companies, Navneet, who I talk to and coach their next generation people. They are 1,000 crore company in some 4 or 5 states. Textbooks are the most commoditized. And I go back. When I studied economics, I loved reading Paul Samuelson's book because it was the first book with color charts and color, writing in it. I think we can make many of our books, whatever we are printing, really colorful, really imaginative, really differentiated. When we do that for school children, when we do that for kids, hopefully that reading habit and that audio-visual sensoriness of a book compared to a simple black and white sensoriness of a book, I think will change. I draw on the example I just gave you. When movies became color compared to black and white and became talkies compared to silent movies, they took off. When newspapers became color, they took off. So maybe we really need to start asking ourselves, are we looking at other senses in the basic of basic books for children and students?
Okay.
And Chithra, if you don't mind, in closing, I would just say that, the publishing business, to Shiv's point as well, it's a fascinating business, right? It's a business of impact. It's a business where stories are told. It's where, young executives can learn from the experience of CEOs like Shiv. And it's a great platform to get, stories out there. And my hope is that the younger generation continues to pick up and they do become the next generation of readers.
Yeah, amen to that. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
You were listening to Businessline's Marketing Hangout with Shiv and Chithra. Hope you enjoyed. Stay tuned for more.